Work in Progress is a student led project that looks at organizations that intervene in Bengaluru's infrastructure and public policies to effect change at the grassroots level.
Bangalore has experienced rapid urbanization in the last decade. Commuting, especially now, has more options.
However, walking as an option for accessing destinations is now falling through the cracks. This is Malleswaram, a post-plague neighborhood in Bangalore, home to mouth-watering dosas and their bustling, vibrant markets. It's both a 15-minute walking neighborhood, but because of their footpath encroachment, walkability has reduced drastically.
Episode 2 Footpath Illade Naavu Elli. Where do we stand if there are no footpaths?
We're here today with two organizations that work towards finding solutions and implementing them to make Malleswaram walkable again.
People are used to walking everywhere, whether it's to go buy groceries or to go to a park or anything. And off late, because of densification of the city and the way infrastructure is developed, this has become extremely hard for residents. And so the last 4 years has really been like, how do you reclaim that part of the neighborhood that made it so special? My name is Ankit. I co-run Sensing Local along with Sobia. We are architects and urban planners.
Sensing Local is an urban living lab based in Bangalore, a site for city observation, learning, and innovation with a specific focus on improving the state of environment and public health.
I think as we progressed, we also did something called Kate Matu, which was a lot of conversations that were there right within the neighborhood. And we used to routinely get 50 to 60 people attending these conversations, whether it was on COVID safety or just doctors coming up and talking about stuff, or even looking at new kinds of projects that needed to be taken up. And then I think there was a time at which we were like, hey, let's streamline our efforts on what we think is doable by us, both as technical partners to this collaboration and Malleswaram as a community.
So I'm Krishna. I'm a software engineer. I've lived on this 6th main for last 20 plus years. So.
Mr. Krishna is part of a citizens collective based in Malleswaram known as Malleswaram Social.
So Malleswaram Social formed about 5 years ago. It was mainly started more to get to know each other, the neighbors and so on, because over time Bangalore has become very difficult to traverse. So we thought that we should at least get to know our neighbors, because you can't visit your friends and family across the city that easily. So we thought we'll at least get to know, and so that's how it started. But then very quickly we got involved in some of the civic activities. Like I think the trigger was probably the how all over the city they have these drains that get cleared every year or every other year, and then they redo the pavement exactly as it was. And here for every house entry there is the platform, the footpath drops, and then again. So if you really want to walk on the footpath, you'll be going like this up and down for every house, like counting houses. So they were doing that in front of this Canara Union on 8th Main, which is one more street away. So we thought, why don't we try and at least get one level surface where pedestrians have a smooth surface to walk and cars go up and down.
At the same time, when we were developing and thinking about what we wanted to do next, there was SUMA, which was created by DOLT, which is Sustainable Urban Mobility Accords, created by DOLT, Directorate of Urban Land Transport, which does a lot of planning and policy work across the state in transport and mobility. And so they created this program where they were funding like 50 lakhs to 10 neighborhoods to do sustainable mobility work. And so we were supporting a couple of neighborhoods, and Malleswaram was one of them. So it did get selected. So that meant 50 lakhs would actually go towards community-based projects. So the Walkable Malleswaram project has actually really become projectized because of the impetus that has also come from the state wanting to push for doing these kinds of projects on ground.
So when this DULT thing happened, then we said that we would focus on using conservancy lanes to improve walkability in Malleswaram.
These are conservancy lanes. They are 8 to 10 feet wide lanes that run parallel to the main roads in residential areas. These spaces, which were originally used for manual scavenging, are now neglected areas used as illegal storage spaces or dumping spots. Walkable Malleswaram aims at clearing up these conservancy lanes so it can be used as an alternative pathway to connect schools, temples, restaurants and other destinations within its 15-minute neighborhood.
Actually, it's a fairly complicated issue in an older part of the city like Malleswaram, because if you go to some places, the houses have existed for 40 years and 50 years. Now, suddenly you tell them, no, this is not the way, and we are going to have one level footpath. Now, they ask the question that, okay, tomorrow something goes wrong, and who will fix it? Then we realize that we have to somehow convince citizen also to understand the issues, because many of the problems are caused by citizens. They want a nice footpath everywhere, like you see in the movies, but in other cities, other countries, but not in front of their house, because in front of their house, their car has to go in smoothly without having to go over the footpath. And then there are people who keep flower pots outside there on the footpath to stop people from walking there, standing there, or they just occupy it and make a garden out of it. So basically, we realize that the problem is not just that the BBMP doesn't do it correctly, but also many times the problems are from the citizens. So we have been campaigning to get the citizen involved and asking for better footpaths. And unfortunately, it's become the norm that we all just have figured out that the footpaths are never going to be usable, and we just walk on the street most of the time. Right? Now, if you go to 8th Main, which goes to Yashwantpur, there's a nice, wide, beautiful footpath, but still many people walk on the road because it's just become a practice. You never know, because if you walk on the footpath, suddenly it may drop. There are places where on the Margosa road where, if you have seen them, that's a tender shore kind of footpath, but they have had to cut it and put a slope to go into the house basements, because the houses were made many years ago and the basement is too low, so that if you do it properly, the car will never be able to go in there. So they have to basically occupy half the footpath. And then we have lots of trees, which means that even when they do the footpath, the level goes off or things like that. So one is the Margosa, when this was done, I think they just started around COVID time or just before it. So it took a long time, and we were asking all the time that we would like to sit with the engineers, whoever it is, and look at the plans and work with them, but nothing happened. And then finally, when everything was done, then they finally agreed to at least have a walk through along the footpath with some of us. Then we found that the ramps that they have, see, whenever like the footpath ends and there's a road there, there has to be a ramp for people to walk down. So they just made them purely for the sake of ticking that there's a ramp there. They were all like at this slope where nobody can walk, and especially senior citizens. And they're also nice and smooth. So very basic things like that. So we pointed out, and now after that they fixed some of them, not 100% of them. That was one example where at least post facto they did fix something. But that's an example where ideally we would want to be part of the solution from the beginning, rather than wait until everything is done and then try to fix things on top of what has already been done. I mean, it's very difficult to get things done through the municipal agencies here. Like, for example, we originally wanted to get lights, etc. here. This is meant to be senior citizen.
The recreation.
Senior recreation and so on. So then they suddenly went ahead and paved all these without telling us. Now, of course, if you want to do lighting, then again you'll have to either redo it or put it on the top. So things like that. We are trying very hard to cooperate with the municipal agencies, but that's one-way street mostly. But still, some progress has been made. We had an initiative where we would take walks in the evening, and then we would identify where the lights are not there, and then we would notify. But we have tried all of those things. So now, hopefully, people individually just call when the lights are not there or not there, or left on and so on. So it's handled by a private agency, so you just directly have to call them. This Conservancy Lane, there's no lighting, and along the Margosa Conservancy, there are lots of buildings that open up, and they have their own light. Even here, you will see some light from those buildings. But if you want lights here, then so that is where the new things have to be provided.
And when it comes to setting up street lights, what kinds did you opt for in terms of making sure that you didn't have to spend too much on funding?
So right now, streetlights are still going to be done by VBMP. They are not done yet. There is some amount of lighting in these conservancies that are already there, but there's going to be another layer of streetlights that are going to come. We don't really know how many choices we'll have in the matter.
Okay. Who usually looks over these?
VBMP does.
BBMP, okay.
There were actually these old street lights that we've seen across Malleswaram. They're now defunct. So there has been some internal conversations to see if we could, use them. These are all ongoing conversations. We are now in that phase where we're now going to be looking at recreation infrastructure, like exercise equipments and play equipments and stuff. So we are in that phase now. We are in the second phase of implementation, and lighting and etc. will be a part of it. Part of that process, so Gichu Garu was the one that brought on basically the artists, and the goal was always that the artworks were created in conversation with the place and the residents there. So it was not just go and do an artwork and then it happens. So that I think was really the work, that we are carrying on the ethos of public participation and really spanning that across even the artworks. That when the artists are making stuff, it's always in conversation in context of what the neighborhood is, and you can really see how much joy the artwork has now created. It's really become a destination now, and so that's really happened because everyone has worked together and caused this to happen.
Especially for the bus stand one, we gave some feedback. The artist, I think Pratham, he shared his plans, so we suggested some changes. We thought that something that would make it look more authentic, like Malleswaram. I think once people start walking regularly and these conservancy lanes become the mainstream, like other roads. If you see the other roads, typically at least they try to maintain them at some level. So we are hoping that once these conservancy lanes get used properly, then they'll be also maintained.
So I must say that these are all, as the name of your group suggests, these are work in progress.